Welcome to another episode of Rod's Tabletop Hoops. Today we're going to focus on something I am not overly familiar with, and that is actually buying PDF copies of Tabletop Hoops seasons and printing them out on my own computer. Now, I've bought plenty of seasons of Crunch Time and various games, hoops, and I've put them on my tabletop via going to FedEx office or one of those print shops and paying money per page to get my sets completed. And then I take it home, get out the guillotine cutter, and make a dent with the cutter and get those cards chopped as cleanly as possible. And sometimes I get really good results, and other times I don't get as good of results. But anyway, this is going to be more of the I think I'm going to get some games on Black Friday type of attitude and maybe not print every single card. Well, my strategy here is I've got an ancient inkjet printer, and I went over to Walmart of all places. I got a tip from Joe Brooks that says they got a good deal on cardstock. So premium cardstock is about $8.47 in the state of Oregon. We don't have a sales tax, so that was the flat rate. 110 pound cardstock, 150 sheets for $8.47 or so, and that seemed like a decent deal. 150 sheets will go a long way. That gets a number of seasons done, and I'm not sure how many I need to do. Maybe I only need to do replay a championship or something based on what I get over the Black Friday holiday. And getting back to the Black Friday holiday topic, there were a number of sales going on, and most of them have concluded, including the one that I just took advantage of. And that was, again, as I did in 2023, Sidelight Strategy Games has their sales, and they take a good percentage off a lot of their sets. Now, a lot of their sets might cost close to, in print, they might cost close to $30 each. But on the PDF side, you got $9 straight across on almost every one of their PDF sets, as you can see right here. Now, for the Black Friday holiday, each one of these sets, which just ended yesterday, which would have been Monday, the 2nd, they were at $6.75. So you can't get a better deal on something that's $6.75, and you get all of the cards for almost every one of these sets. So you may be wondering, what sets do you actually need, Rod's Tabletop Hoops, since you have virtually everything in the NBA pre-2000, which is your wheelhouse? Well, I've got this obsession, and that obsession involves the 1976 Bank Shot Basketball PDF that Bryan came out with earlier this year, I believe. And the cool part about this PDF is it not only includes the NBA cards, it includes the ABA cards. And I've got NBA for Fast Break by Jim Mickey and things like that, but I'm really always fascinated by the 1976 ABA season for some reason. I don't know what it is. It was the last year of the ABA prior to the merger with the NBA. And you had a guy like Julius Erving who put together maybe one of the finest all-around seasons in the history of professional basketball when he averaged 29.3 points, 11 boards, and 5 assists a game. Yes, they're not Wilt Chamberlain 50.4 numbers, but Julius Erving was literally in the top 10 leaderboard in almost every statistical category: assists, steals, blocks, rebounds, three-point shooting percentage. He was in the top 10 in everything. And you never, ever see that in pro basketball, especially these days where we got a lot of three-point gunners and the like. So, but anyway, the Nets not only had the incredible Dr. J, they finished 55-29. And once again, I'm not sure how they did it. They had kind of a really put-together team that kind of fell apart. They had Swen Nader for part of the year, and you'd think, why would you want to get rid of Swen Nader? They ended up getting Jim Akins and used a combination of centers with Kim Hughes and Akins, and somehow rolled through the playoffs. And let's see what I can find here. Yeah, 55 wins. And as you can see here, Irving was by far the leader of the pack. They did have some good performances from John Williamson, and Bryan Taylor only played 54 of the 84 games. And Rich Jones, their forward, shot 38% from the floor. Kim Hughes, a great rookie, but 53% from the field, and it was a non-offensive player. So they had Al Skinner, a solid bench player. They traded Swen Nader away. You got Ted McLean, maybe. I don't even know if McLean was on the team. Tim Bassett, a very mediocre shooting power forward. Bill Melchione was just an assistant coach who got to play once in a while. Chuck Terry kind of filled in. But somehow this team went all the way and won the championship over the Denver Nuggets. That's another note. Denver Nuggets, they are one of those teams that underachieved more than any other ABA team. I mean, this team scored 121.9 a game. They win 60 games. They had just as incredible a year in 1974-75, and they did not win the championship in either year. It just wasn't their year. Well, that kind of explains some of the fascination that I have, and here I am with my PTG 65 Denver Nuggets right here, and they look kind of like this. Ralph Simpson, Bobby Jones, Dan Issel, David Thompson. Of course, I corner rounded all of those cards. Every one of my seasons of PTG basketball have rounded corners, so Byron Beck, Marvin Webster, and you get to the bench, they even had a couple extra players. Pretty good roster right there. The Nets, of course, the champions, had let's go over here. We'll even zoom this in a little bit. And you got the Nets. That's a team card. John Williamson, Rick Jones, Kim Hughes. They weren't always great with spelling at PTG. Dr. J. Julius Irving. Also had Jim Akins, George Bucci in reserve, Chuck Terry in reserve, Ted McLean in reserve, and sometimes starter. Al Skinner, great six-man, Bill Melchione, assistant coach and former great net, and part-time starter Tim Bassett, who could really rebound but couldn't shoot, and a little team card, and BT Bryan Taylor, 54 games out of 84 games for the New York Nets, the champions of 1975-76. So as I said, for just the cheap price of $6.75, they were regularly $9, which is still a good deal. You get not only the ABA, but you also get the NBA. And if anyone recalls the NBA, the Boston Celtics won another championship, which I remember just as a young kid, probably watching basketball for my second year of my lifetime at age 9 or 10 on CBS. The Celtics took a championship away from my favorite team at the time, which was, besides my hometown Trailblazers, was the Golden State Warriors, who won a whopping 59 games, which was, 5 games better than the Celtics? So either way, the Celtics got another championship, and it was kind of an interesting year because the Phoenix Suns kind of came out of nowhere to go to the finals and upset Golden State. But that league had a lot of fun players and a lot of fun teams. George McGinnis had come over to the Philadelphia 76ers and made them a winner, actually, because they were not very good in 75 or 74. This was the last year of Bob McAdoo's scoring titles with the Braves, and they soon crumbled after this, getting beat, I believe, by the Celtics in the playoffs again. And they decided to dismantle the team. Poor Buffalo. Their arena, they had an agreement with the Buffalo Sabres of the NHL, and they were having trouble securing dates. And the owner decided to just uproot it, getting rid of McAdoo and all the key players, even though at the start of the following year, 76-77, the Braves had a lineup which could have featured McAdoo, Adrian Dantley, John Shoemate, and perhaps even Moses Malone. They could have had the most incredible front line in the history of basketball. But the owners were having none of it. I think they were probably having a few financial troubles. the NBA was not as profitable back in the 1970s as it is today, or even within the past 25 to 30 years. So an interesting year. The Cleveland Cavaliers, incredible, 49 wins. That team could really play. They went a long distance in the playoffs in '76. Miracle at Richfield, just look that up. Bullets still had Elvin Hayes. Overall, just a fun year. Milwaukee traded away, of course, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, getting Dave Myers and Brian Winters, among other players. But it didn't make them a playoff team. Kareem's first year, they gave him the MVP, despite having his team go 40-42. And of course, my Trailblazers suffered through a second year of Bill Walton injuries and eventually blew up that team, winning the championship the following year. So either way, 76 was a fantastic year for NBA basketball. So upon purchasing my 1975-76 Pro Basketball set from Joe Bryan's Bank Shot Basketball, he inserted a file that I just found kind of fascinating. It's a single card per page player file. So you look at Julius Erving here, and he's the entire page. You can literally just print out an entire page of Dr. J on your tabletop. I mean, obviously, having 8.5 by 11 pages might be a little bit difficult as far as the footprint is concerned, but either way, it's just kind of fun to look at these guys in big size, either on your computer screen or maybe printing them out in black and white because you don't want to waste color. But either way, that's the entire set of 488 players and team cards, all in big size, just like that. Anyway, this is what the actual regular season sheets you'd print out for the Denver Nuggets, or here's the Pacers, Nate Barnett, but there's David Thompson right there, one sheet at a time. And they look like this. Well, every time I've been wanting to print out one of these, I've just kind of been experimenting with it recently, is you'll go to your print on your Adobe PDF form, and you'll try to get them to print out properly. And I don't want to print it with my laser printer. I want to print it with my HP 5550 color printer, and it seems like I'm always cutting off something at the bottom here. This shows the printable area, and Joe Bryan says you don't want to go with any page scaling. I can fit the printable area, I guess, and I have a smaller print, but I don't really want that. I wanted full-size printing. And for some reason, when you're using an oddball printer that is not in line with what the Adobe company wants, you have this issue. I've looked around, I tried to squeeze it, I didn't want to scale it down, I wanted a full-size card on the page, but always something seemed to be getting in the way, and I didn't want to print cut-off cards as well. So this was my issue, and I'm still experimenting to this day, but what I found is that if you take that file itself, and here's the file I'm dealing with right down in the left corner right here, and in lieu of opening it with the normal Adobe program, you go to open with, and you open it with a browser. And here's Firefox right here. It's a browser I use quite often. You can actually open it on the browser page, and when you go to print it, it gives you a little more freedom. Let me see if I can do this properly. But see, it sets it up for the Canon, which is my laser printer, which I don't want to do. I go to HP, my HP DeskJet. That's my inkjet printer. And so there's some annotations at the top of the page and everything. It doesn't look just right. Well, it says fit to page width. I don't want to do that either. I go down on my here, and it says custom margins, and I put none, and suddenly it's at least out to the edge, and that says print headers and footers, and I don't want that either. So remove all those little annotations on the top and the bottom. And so it looks like here my big experiment is, can I actually print a full-size page of Bankshot Basketball PDFs on my printer without any issues. And that's what I'm going to experiment with today. So I've stayed in my browser, and I really want to print out the New York Nets in Bankshot. And I've got this one page here that is combined. It's got Kentucky and New York on the same page, but I obviously wanted to print out Dr. J, so we're going to try and print out this page right here. And so let's see, you hit Control P, you say pages, the current page, you say color, because you want, whoops, that's not the page I wanted. So you got to go to the pages area. I know it's page 37 because I looked it up, and so I've got it right there. It'll by default go to the top page, and there we are. And so I don't want to scale it. It says fit to page width. I really don't want to do that if I don't have to. Margins none, two-sided printing off, no headers, no footers. And so, obviously you want to go as far to the edge as possible. I think these little measuring marks are going to make it so I have to print it to page width. But still, it looks like it's bigger than most. And I believe we got everything that Joe Bryan has on the page. So we're going to try and print this out, and I will take this camera to the printer and we'll take a look at it. Alright, so you can see this is my printer. It's semi-warmed up. We'll see how much ink is left. I'm just throwing 2 sheets of 110-pound cardstock into the printer at a time, just because I don't want things getting tied up or screwed up. I don't do this very often, so this is just trying something basically for the first time. So you lock that down as much as you can. This printer's from about 2001 or 2, I don't even know, but it's been very reliable, and the cartridges are cheap. So you set that up like that, and other than that, I think we're ready to hit the print button and see what's going to go on. Here we go. And we're off to the races. Please don't get stuck. That's my worry, is the paper is going to get stuck. Is the 110-pound cardstock too thick for the printer, or can it actually manage it? I think it can do it. I've done it in smaller pages before, so we'll see if this comes out nice, see if there's some quality here, or if it looks below my standards. Of course, after you get all of this done, there's a lot of cutting and corner rounding to do as well, but I hope it just looks decent. I'm not looking for magic. I know I don't have a laser printer than color, so that's not worth that investment for most people anyway. So we'll take its time. It's not going to print very quickly, but we'll see what we have here. Hopefully my toner cartridges are in reasonable shape. I know I replaced the black one recently. There's a color cartridge in there that I haven't replaced in a while. And we have an issue. We got a cut off at the bottom of the page. I was not expecting that whatsoever. So that is not good. Alright, making a quick comparison here. This is a Trent Tucker from my 88-89 NBA set. Just looking at the size. I do like the look of the cards. They look actually a little bit bolder even than the factory printed card that I have right here with my personal corner rounding. They're darker. Size-wise, they are almost virtually the same. I just had one issue, and it's the fact that the bottom cards did not fully print. So I'm going to have to make an adjustment and see what's going on with that. That does not make any sense to me. Well, I'm not exactly sure what I did wrong there. There is one checkbox that says print headers and footers, and I just wonder if that cut off the foot, so to speak, of that first page. So we're going to try once again, and we'll have the headers and footers checkbox checked on the page and see if that works. So here we go. Like I said, this is a full experiment. I've not really printed a lot of full pages of cardstock on this printer. And we'll see how this one goes. This is page 38. This is the following page. We'll have a few more New York Nets players on it. But I'm just hoping that maybe it'll reach the foot of the page. I don't know why it would cut off the foot of the page. That does not make one lick of sense to me. And we'll see how it goes. Print head's working hard, getting all that detail and color on Joe Bryan's cards, which I like for the most part. The only thing I could probably say, and those cards are already full of stats, is it would be cool to have a points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game on the cards. Just something simple like that. But that's something that he can put in future seasons if he really finds the ability to do so. The cards are so darn packed with the ranges on the offensive and defensive columns, so that's just icing on the cake. I can't wait to play a little bit more of Bank Shot. I've been away from that game for almost a year now just because I've been playing a host of other games. And there are so many out there. You know, Play Games came out with their Highlight Maker Hoops, Prime Time. I mean, we had games come out of the woodwork like ECS Basketball last month, so there's been a lot of stuff to play and look at. I don't even get to one of my favorite games, Hoops by Mark Vecellio, that often either, but I plan to do it soon. This page is just wrapping up. Kim Hughes, Rich Jones, and Ted McLean headline this page. The question is, did we get our printout at the bottom of the page? I don't know why it would not print the full card at the bottom of the page, which was kind of disappointing. We'll see what we get right here in just a moment. Here we go. Do we have it? Nope. Another disappointment. Base of the card just did not print out, so I'm going to have to solve that problem. I don't feel like wasting any more paper on this issue. Alright, following that second failed attempt, we're going to change browsers to open it up in. This time we're going to use Google Chrome, and it looks great on the page. I did a test page on the laser printer that I have. It's black and white. Size of the image looked great and everything, so let's see if it translates to the color page. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Is the whole card there? No, it is not there. We have failed for the third straight time. Why is that happening? Alright, fourth time is a charm. Been doing some research, and it looks like I might have to convert this PDF of pages into individual images. And there's an Adobe website that actually shows you able to convert the entire document into individual PDF pages, and that is supposed to solve the 1/2 inch cutoff at the bottom of each color page I'm having. Now that's wild. I've been looking on the internet, and apparently this is an issue predominantly with HP type inkjet printers. So let's see what we got. Okay. Well, for the first time we actually have all the page printed very well, and let's take a look and see how the size of the page is. It looks a little bit smaller, but let's compare with an actual card. Alright, here's my Patrick Ewing test card, and as you can see, it is a little bit smaller. As a matter of fact, I'd venture to say that's at least 1/4 of an inch smaller. So by putting it in the image format, it's probably the equivalent of shrinking it by a few percent. Now, so that's partial success. At least we did not waste a page. I just got to decide if I want to have smaller Bank Shot Basketball cards than typical, because it's nice to read them when they're nice and large and everything, but what a dilemma that is with the HP inkjet printer. Well, as you could see throughout the video, I had some struggles printing the Bank Shot Basketball PDFs to a size that was ideal or super satisfactory to me. I ended up reading a whole bunch more on the internet, and one of the suggestions was this: convert your PDF file to a JPEG image. So that Bank Shot Basketball file from 75, 76 NBA and ABA has about 55 pages. You select it, it converts every one of those into an individual JPEG image. And that enabled me to at least, I couldn't print it at 100%, but at least I could safely print it at like 94% with knowledge that I would not go over the edge of the page. Now that's kind of hard to demonstrate here, but I could tell you, let's see what we got here. Bank Shot. Let's just go into our Bank Shot files. Actually, I have them right on my desktop here. I call them Bank Shot images. It converted every one of those files to an image like this. And this is page 1. And it's got Mark Olberding, Dave Robish, Bob Warren here. All I have to do with this, at least I know I'm safely able to print it out and not have it cut off, because it's actually within something that my ancient HP 5550 computer was somewhat compatible with. So I go 8.5 by 11 letter, margins, normal, fill page. I don't have to change any of the settings on the page. So it says portrait 8.5 by 11 letter, and it's as simple as first I got to turn it to my printer, which is the HP 5550 series, which is a not so great printer for doing inkjet color prints, and that's what I found out today. But either way, everything is preset. I hit that, it printed out just fine, as I showed in one of the last attempts of my printing success. But it does come out at about 94%. It doesn't come out at 100% like I wanted to. But let's take a look at the finished product with those cards. And I will just move you over to this side here. I pre-printed and pre-cut about 18 cards. And as you can see here, this is what they look like. They're a little bit smaller. Let me grab my standard Patrick Ewing card that's right here. And I'm finding out these Joe Bryan cards are built like a tank. I'm telling you, these are twice the quality that this 110 pound card stock is. But you can see by the two cards that were a little bit shorter and just slightly thinner. So it's the Bank Shot cards light version. They still look really good. They're not too glossy, which might help me if I decide to video another game with 75, 76 in Bank Shot, but they are a bit smaller, but they cut out just fine. They do the job. And so I'm just going to be settling for a little bit smaller image than these great heavy quality images. And that's what you pay the extra bucks for. But this PDF was $6.75. This PDF was probably closer to 27 or 28. This actually may have been the one I got at Black Friday last year, so I might have gotten this for 26 plus some shipping last year. But boy, the quality of Joe Bryan's cards, until you actually print out a comparable 110 pound card stock, you don't even realize how great these cards are, because that's a big improvement. But I mean, these are certainly playable. Definitely. And I've played with smaller cards in this. And of course, I displayed Highlight Maker Hoops, very small. What else is small? Status Pro Basketball, very small cards. But these are bold. They're still readable, even in their reduced size. And I'm really happy with the quality, even though it's just an old school printer from 2001, an HP 5550. Just showing you my other surprise PDF Black Friday purchase from Bank Shot Basketball and Joe Bryan. I've been reviewing, doing some checking for errors on this upcoming season of Hoops Tabletop Pro Basketball, and this is the 85-86 NBA season. Now, I didn't find many errors in Mark's cards. He's really good. He told me he'd already combed through it pretty well, and I could not find a darn error on a card to save my life, and I guess that's a good thing. But anyway, I got this complimentary PDF for doing this work, and this is just for instance what the Michael Jordan card will look like approximately. There's always a chance for some changes, but this was the year he broke his foot. 6 games into the season, finished playing about 18 games, and guiding the Bulls to a late season run into the playoffs with maybe 31, 32 wins. One of the worst playoff records you'll ever have to qualify. And that's when he scored his 63 points in one of those great games that the Celtics played against the Bulls in 1985-86. Kind of Michael's coming-of-age moment, showing that he was going to be much more than just a super player, just an incredible player, one of the best, a handful, top 5 of all time. So anyway, this is another one. I may take advantage of my printer and my 110-pound cardstock paper that I got really reasonably and try out a game. The 86 Celtics were just insane. Maybe I'll play them. Let's see, where's Larry? There's Larry Bird right there. You can tell he just does everything well. He's an assist of 26, 28's your highest, free throws 2 to 9 and 11. That's right around 90%. And he hit about 50% from the floor and about 40% from 3, I believe. And that was after a very slow start that year. I think he was battling, just coming out of some injury issues from the prior season, and he really picked up speed as the season went on. It didn't really matter this year because they actually had a couple good bench players, which had been plaguing them in years past and in future years as well, because Jerry Seasting was fantastic off the bench at guard. Bill Walton was the 6th man of the year. May he rest in peace at forward and center. And then you got Scotty Wedman, who was just a mad bomber, and he could make shots from anywhere. So there was 3 really good reserves. And you get down to Rick Carlisle, Greg Kite, Sam Vincent, and David Thirdkill, and you're not seeing much depth here. But this was a pretty good season of cards. I have this in Fast Break, so it's something I probably wouldn't buy myself, but I really do like making comparisons between this 1986 version, 30 plus years, well, let's see, 86, 96, almost 40 years in the past. That's hard to believe that was so long ago. But comparing Fast Break and their defensive ratings and whatever to a more systematic, computerized version of 86 basketball in 2024, it's incredible, the work that Mark Vecellio does here. I really appreciate it. It's what brought me back to the tabletop basketball hobby 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe even more, after taking a break for life's career, family, and other challenges. But I'm looking forward to printing out at least one team here and playing a game and checking out, see how it runs, versus my Fast Break by Jim Mickey's version of the game, the last season released by Fast Break back in late 1986. Just still looking at the cards. Franklin Edwards, Michael Cage. There's the Lakers. They are awesome as always, frustrating to a Blazer fan. And there's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You can see Mark, he only gives him average plus defense. And I think that's based on the whole scheme of things. He was kind of indicating to me that you only, in his game, there might only be 1 or 2, maybe 3 good plus defenders ratings in his game, and if you do too many more, that makes that team too good. And you can see Magic is average plus, Worthy average plus, and this was a very good Laker team. Michael Cooper excellent, and that's never been questioned, one of the best defenders ever. Byron Scott average. So this is really not a high level defensive team, but their offense certainly makes up for any defensive inconsistencies. But even the Bucks were really good. Look at Paul Pressey, excellent. Sidney Moncrief, excellent on defense, and of course he was a great offensive player. So the list goes on and on. This is just a fantastic season of cards. There's Buck Williams, one of the finest power forwards of the 1980s and 1990s, and of course a trailblazer. Finally here we've got ourselves the 1981-82 Continental Basketball Association. Joe Bryan may be the first and only person to ever produce a Continental Basketball Association season. The CBA was around primarily during the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, before I believe Isaiah Thomas bought it all out of the Detroit Pistons and then basically sold his shares of it. And it pretty much went into the toilet after that. Thanks to Isaiah for ruining the Continental Basketball Association with his sale. I think he had to sell it in order to become a part owner of some NBA franchise. But either way, during the 80s and the 70s, there were some cool players. If you remember guys like Billy Ray Bates and Phil Jackson was a coach there. He got his start there. But this is an interesting season, 81-82 for $6.75. I had to jump on this, and I don't understand why he picked that particular season, except for the fact that Joe did just put together the 81-82 NBA season, probably around the same time, so he can make those two seasons coexist, and you can buy them together for like $10. But I had just bought the 82 season in hoops, so I didn't really need that portion. So I just decided to buy the 81-82 CBA. And these were the teams right here. There's the Alberta Dusters. There's the Anchorage Northern Knights, Atlantic City High Rollers. I don't even remember some of these names. The Billings, Montana Volcanoes. And they had moved from Hawaii. Of course, that's kind of weird that they would not change their team name. I don't think you're going to find too many volcanoes in Billings, Montana. And that was one of two Montana teams. There's the Montana Golden Nuggets, Lancaster Lightning. Don't forget the Maine Lumberjacks. We also got the Rochester Zeniths, and of course here is where you got all of their cool logos, team logos. I'd like to put some of those on some envelopes. I might print these guys out, and just fun stuff. The Zeniths, Rochester Zeniths logo. So anyway, this is let's take a look at. I think the champions were the. Let's see, it wasn't the Billings, Montana. I think it was the Lancaster Lightning, and they were. Let's see what they look like here. 34-12, went 7-2 in the playoffs, won the championship. Former NBA super stud Cazzie Russell, kind of under the radar type of a scorer, played for the championship Knicks team in 1970. Coached them to 34-12, and they played, of course, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, former home of APA baseball, and their lineup looked like this. They actually had Henry Bibby on the team, so maybe Bibby, probably one of the oldest members of the team, born in 1949. This is 82. He's still 33-ish or so, but he was one of the players as well. Let's see if it shows some statistics here. What did they do in 82? This is going to be interesting for me because there's a lot of players I had not heard of or guys that I remember from my 81 NBA that jumped over from the CBA, kind of went back to the CBA. You look at this roster here, and you can see that Curtis Berry was the leader in minutes played. Edmund Sherrod played a season in New York under Hubie Brown. The three-pointer was in play, but really not too often. NBA teams today are now taking 30 or more three-point field goal attempts per game. A couple teams are averaging 40 three-point field goal attempts a game. These guys took 195 as a team for the entire 46 games. So what are we talking about? 5 per game or less, maybe 4. So anyway, there's mostly full stats here. I don't see any offensive or defensive rebounds. That's probably the one stat that I don't see at all here. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Let's take a look at the averages. You can see that 20.4 for Norman Black, for instance. I mean, I don't know anything about Norman Black, but he only got in 29 games. Did he get called up to a European team? I don't ever recall him being in the NBA. I am aware of Joe Cooper, Henry Bibby. But yeah, there's a lot of players. I have no idea who these guys are. Let's take a look at one of the teams that they faced. Let's see, were the Golden Nuggets good? I can't remember. Their statistics are right here. They finished 30-16. They finished second in the CBA West Division, 2-3 in the playoffs. They did have Robert Smith and another player, Kenny Denard. He played in the NBA. Ron Valentine got a cup of coffee in the NBA, but I think Ron was one of the league's best players. He actually threw in 32.2 points per game, and that's in 43 games forward, and he got 9 rebounds a game, so that'll be an interesting player to try out. Terry Stott's a familiar name, not in the playing realm, but as a coach, but he was playing with the Montana Gold Nuggets, and what did he do? 16.1. So that guy could not just coach, he could actually play. Hit 35% of his threes. How many did he take? He's 15 for 43. So that's got to be one of the better marks in the league, probably as far as percentage goes. There's a 417 shooting for Robert Smith, who was a long-time, very diminutive point guard, but he only shot 10 for 24. But he was also one of those great assist players. He had 200 assists, and that's an average of 5.9 and 34.6 minutes a game. So that's kind of how they look. The cards themselves, here's the single card per page look. You can see them in big time numbers here. Just find it entertaining. He threw that extra file in for us, Joe Bryan. There's a little bit of game instructions. They actually changed where the player's age is listed. I think they put the age somewhere over there, maybe. But anyway, anyone who played for more than one team, I don't know if there's any that did. Here's team number 1, Percy Davis. They put a 1 there instead of his age, and that reflects the first of more than one team probably that he played for. So a little difference on the cards. Player cards are listed by team with the top 12 players listed first. Combined totals and remaining cards per team follow the top 12 team by team player cards. The team cards are presented at the end of the file. So, and this is a whole bunch of information about printing and how scaling works or doesn't work, or how your printer may vary. And I certainly had many issues with my printer, but this is what they look like. There's actually 8 per page here, which it's interesting that he did 9 per page on that on these cards. So maybe with my methods, maybe at 8 per page, my cards will be just slightly bigger than the NBA 76 ABA cards that I printed out. But here you see, I think Ron Davis was another great player. I think he threw in about, I know he played for the Clippers for a minute, but I think he threw in about 30 to 35 points per game with Anchorage. Let me see if I can find Anchorage real quick. I want to see if I can verify that. I'm slowly learning it. Anchorage roster. Oh, whoops. Anchorage statistics. I wanted the Northern Knights, not Northern Lights. They were the Northern Knights. 1,087 points. But I think it was in limited games. 31 games, 42 minutes a game, 54% from the floor, 35.1 per game. So that'll be fun to play a guy like that, who actually made a couple 3-pointers as well, 12 for 34 in only 31 games. That's pretty solid. Tico Brown's a name that kind of rings a bell for me as well. But anyway, that's what you get for Black Friday specials with Joe Bryan's Bank Shot Basketball. That is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed looking at my Black Friday purchases in addition to that hoops reveal. So maybe I'll have a game of hoops coming up soon. Anyway, have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon.
The NBA World Championship Series. Today's game is sponsored by Light Beer, everything you always wanted in a beer and less. The Kelly Springfield Tire Company, the Kellys, they're good and tough. And by the totally new Chevrolet, now that's more like it.